Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. Today is going to be a great video, short and simple. And look, I'm not gonna lie, I have been kind of lacking with just posting videos on here, but here's the thing. This video is very important. I'm going to be telling you guys a little bit about some of my experiences on just the AI industry and the AI world in general. But basically, right, today I'll be showing you guys some misconceptions on how some people might make mistakes on trying to sell AI agents. And at the same time, I'll be showing you guys on how to build your first AI agent as well to actually sell. To not just sell, but to actually help and sell to businesses. So without further ado, let's get straight into it, and yeah, let's get it rock and rolling. All right, so the very first thing before I get into the actual building part and showing you guys on how to actually build the agent is that there are lots of misconceptions about how people can go about on, having an AI agency or just selling an AI service in general. If you cannot describe what you're doing in 2 words, for example, what do you sell? AI services. I run an AI agency. I run an AI business. If you can't describe what you're selling in 2 words, you're not selling anything. You're not helping anybody. If you're like, oh, I'm selling like digital AI, social media marketing, if it's like too complex, that's not something that's sellable. And the second thing is, when people are trying to add on something into their business, because here's the thing, this isn't B2C, this is B2B. At the time of this recording, this is completely B2B. You're selling to business people, business owners. They're obviously going to invest into something that they see via Deemable. That's gonna help them, right? That's gonna help their business. So don't just sell random shit. For example, don't build out an N8N workflow and sell it to them like straight off. That's not how it works. You need to be able to build actual systems on the back end. And once you build that back end, then obviously you got to be able to actually package that and make the client service delivery to the point where this the customer experience is way better, right? For example, like, you can build your stuff on N8N, don't get me wrong, but don't just send it to them from N8N. You need to combine everything in total. So that's what that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you guys out. And without further ado, obviously let's get to building. I want to be able to make sure that this helps you guys out to the point where you guys are actually not making mistakes on selling N8N workflows, but just more so of actually building things out and then actually selling systems, not dumbass make.com or like N8N workflows, but actual systems that are going to help businesses, that we know will help businesses. So yeah, let's get straight into it. I'm gonna share my screen. I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, cool. How's it going, guys? Glad that you guys are here. Now, I'm gonna keep it real straight and simple. Please do not build this exact thing out that I am showing you and sell it to businesses. That's not how it goes. We want to make sure that clients and customers have a good customer experience. They don't want to be seeing all this like back-end stuff, right? Just how you wouldn't want to be looking at the back-end stuff of how dirty the McDonald's kitchen is, right? We don't want to see that. So we want to make sure that the customers see what's going on the front end. So this is how it's gonna go. On the next video, I'll be more than happy to show you guys on how we can build the front end stuff to the point where you guys can make it somewhere like this, right? For example, you build this AI systems out then you build out, the actual front end system where the client doesn't have to do anything. They could just view it. For example, you can see how many total calls there were, average call duration, the resolution rate, how many tasks, blah, blah, blah. It's really simple. But, this is just the demo video of what I've made for like a dental voice agent. But I mean, at the end of the day, we can definitely get to this a little bit later. But let's start off with this. Let's start off with the offer. Because a lot of you guys have also made mistakes to the point where you guys are trying to sell thousands and thousands of hundreds of offers. But I mean, at the end of the day, what good is there to do to have 1,000 offers when you can't even sell one? Sorry, just had to drink some water. But at the end of the day, like, you need to realize you need to stick with one offer. Whether if that's a voice agent, whether if that's a social media agent, or personal agent, receptionist, whatever it is, you need to stick to one. So today, the one agent that I have built and that I haven't found the success in yet, but I am sticking with this, is that of a voice agent. So to be honest, I'm not going to lie, I have also made that mistake to the point where, I've tried to, do a lot of offers at once, but I just couldn't really sell it. A single one. So this agent right now that I am going to show you guys on how to build and how to make is a voice agent, personal and for business. So let's get straight into it. Now, let's start from the webhook. So this webhook is going to be primarily the brain of this whole organization, of this whole execution. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using N8N, and we're also going to be using 11 Labs. So I'm going to log in real quick, and here is what goes on in 11 Labs. So we're going to go to 11 Labs real quick in a bit, but let's start off with the, let's start off with 11 Labs first. So 11 Labs is a AI voice AI voice, like, I guess you can say, like, platform to the point where it's able to imitate voices using AI. There's retail and there's also Vappy. If you guys want to check it out, I've made a video about all these three platforms on which one's the best one. I personally believe that 11 Labs has the best in terms of just simplicity. So, but retail and Vappy have way more things into it that you're able to do way more in. But we're gonna stick with 11 Labs for today's purpose of this video. We're gonna come into our agents. Now, you might not see anything in here for you guys, but you guys wanna make sure that you guys come into new agent, click that, and just click and blink. So once you guys click that blink, you're going to come into this part of the section here. Now, once you are in this section, this is where it gets a little complicated. Not too much complicated, but just a little, like, some work you guys gotta do. Now, the first message is going to be the initial message. For example, when you call on the agent, right? We're going to come into my website. So for example, we're going to come into my website and I'm going to show you guys how it kind of looks like, right? So we're going to come in here and we're going to come into the, I guess you could say we'll go to the other one. So we're going to go to the other website. We're going to go to my other one. And then this is kind of how it starts, right? Start a call, accept. And then once you press this button, you talk to the AI, right? So we're gonna come back to 11 Labs. That's how it kind of looks on an actual website where you can sell to what businesses for their website. But the first message is gonna be like, hey, David, how can I be of assistance, right? So for example, assistance to you for today, right? Once you do that, you're gonna save, and then after that, you're gonna come into system prompt. So I'm gonna come into system prompt a little bit later just because it's a little long, but you're going to see something where it's dynamic variables. You don't have to worry about that. LLM, I usually like to have it as GPT 2.5 flashlight where it's fast. I'm just going to clear this real quick. Just because, like, it really, honestly, like, it's what? It's the same price as the Gemini 2.0 Flash, but this is just way faster. So, for example, faster response times. I usually go for 2.5 temperature. I usually just kind of like have it like a little bit here, usually just because, like, temperature means how randomized does the AI get, right? If you put it up to here, it'll probably like go way off board of like what you've probably put it in the prompts to say. But if you put it a little bit right here, it'll be pretty unique on what it says. Limit token usage, I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. Agent knowledge base, so this is, we'll come back into our agents. We're gonna come into restaurant receptionist, just the one I've kind of like made for fun. And then you're gonna see something like this, McDonald's menu. So this agent knowledge base is just something more so of like the knowledge of like the whole business. You can put in menus, you can put in SOPs, you can put in essentially anything that has details and information about the business, right? Tools. Now, this is kind of where it gets a little tricky, but I'm gonna show you guys right now. Now, if you go into the prompt, you're gonna see, you are a McDonald's, blah, 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 receptionist, personality, you are friendly, blah, blah, blah. And it's just kind of pretty much like a whole bunch of like things of just what you want the agent to do, right? But if you guys come to here, right, you'll see something like this, gather the date, time, and number of guests, check the available slots. And then if you come down to tools, check available slots. So what this means is like, you want to make sure that if you are, let's say, scheduling on an appointment, or if you are sending an email, you want to make sure that this agent calls on that tool. For example, if someone wants to book on an appointment, but if you want the agent to check the availability first to see if the time's even open, you're gonna say, obviously say like available slots, and then you're gonna come down to a custom tools, add tool, and then just type in, available _ slots, right? You can copy me, but I mean, that just be your own unique thing, right? And another one as well, for example, is, meeting booked. When someone wants to create a new reservation, they're going to call in meeting booked, right? So they're going to come in here and then meeting booked. So I'll kind of skim through like the whole thing, like the whole prompt for you guys slowly. That way you guys can kind of like copy me, and I guess you can change it up in your own words. So this is kind of how it goes, right? You are McDonald's, blah, 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 response guidelines, personality, you are friendly, environment, you're interacting, tone, your response, clear, concise, goal, your primary goal, determine, blah, 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 and then kind of going like this. Guardrails, do not provide, guardrails is like something that you don't want them to do. You're not going to provide information outside the restaurant's menu. Tools, so this is the tools, you have access to the following tools, available slots, McDonald's _ business, take order, blah, 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 confirm the user's name. The possible email format is name of company. Please make sure when, blah, blah, blah. There you go. Additional notes. The current year is 2025. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I know that was long. I know that was very long, but just kind of change it up on your own words, fix it, and just pretty much make it to how you guys want it to be unique for your guys' self. Now, the tool, I'm gonna skim through it again as well. So kind of like available tools, or available _ slots, use this tool to check availability, URL. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to do this. So we're going to come back into N8N, we're going to come into webhook. Make sure that this is how it looks like, exactly. Post, production, none, using webhook node. Don't make sure it's not on immediately, make sure it's on using respond to webhook node. Now, we're going to come into production URL, we're going to copy that, we're going to exit out that, and we're going to come into Level Labs, and we're going to copy and paste, literally copy and paste, right? But in this case, I'm gonna just leave it like that. But that's kind of how it goes. And we wanna make sure that this method is always on post. Now, this is just kind of how it goes. You guys can copy me, and I'm just gonna skim through it. But it's gonna be, you have to be able to do, this has to be the same for every single one of these, right? For example, we'll come in here, same thing. We'll come into this one, same thing. We'll come into this one, same thing. So that's kind of how it goes. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it's not too confusing for you guys. We're gonna come into the workflow. You don't have to really worry about this. Voice, you can change to the voice of what AI you want it to sound like. And then optimizing streaming latency, I just keep it at 3. Stability, I keep it at 0.5. Speed, I keep it at 1. Similarity, I keep it at 0.8. Now analysis, you don't have to worry about that. Tests don't, security not really advanced. Usually it might be a little different for you guys, but I usually like to keep it like this. Turnout being 7, silence and call timeout -1, max conversation duration. So kind of like the amount of conversation that is able to be held until the agent just calls it off, right? User input audio format, I keep it like that, and then just keeping it like this, right? Really simple. And the widget, now this is how you can actually sell to businesses. You could just copy this and then just kind of just go onto the website and just code embed it, and this is how it's going to look like on an actual website. So without further ado, let's go straight into N8N. Now, in NA10 right here, obviously, like I mentioned, it's really simple. You guys already know what to do on here. Make sure that's the same. Now, AI agents. This is kind of a little confusing as well, but if you look at it here right now, obviously you want to make sure that this is kind of how it looks. User request, it's kind of requesting from the webhook. Obviously there's nothing there, but obviously once the webhook is called, there's going to be some requests. You're going to get the name, email, date, and time, and then here is the current day and time, making sure that it knows that it's now. Because in ElevenLabs, I said it, obviously like in the prompt, I said the current year is 2025, but NA10 doesn't know. So that's why you have to put in brackets, $now, brackets. Now, please don't get confused on the prompt user message and the system message. The prompt user message is just kind of like the start off, and then the system message is where like this is what you really want the agent to do. So we're gonna come into system messages and just pretty much copy me exactly word for word if you want, or change it up in your own words. So it's pretty simple. Once we have that AI agent set up, we're gonna come into respond to webhook. Usually it's gonna say all incoming items, so make sure that it stays like that, all incoming items. And then and always make sure to connect it as well. Make sure to connect all these three or else your AI will not work. After that, we're gonna come into chat model, OpenAI chat. I just put in your credentials. You can literally just go on YouTube, ask how to connect your credentials in literally 30 seconds to a minute, and you're done. Now, model, I usually like to keep it at GPT-4-4o, but there's obviously way more models than that. Now, don't get confused as well on all these. These are just tools. Now, the tools you can come into as Google Calendar, where you can put in your own information here. Available, right? There you go. SERP, Google Sheets, and email. And this one is just pretty much like answering the FAQs. Now, you might be wondering, why are there so many tools? Well, if we come into AI agent and we come into the prompt user message, we're going to see something where it's going to be, I guess you can say the system message. You're going to see something where it's going to be like available, schedule, vector store, sheets. But if we come down or if we come back out, it's going to be schedule, available, sheets, right? So pretty much this AI, you're telling it from the system message to call on these tools whenever someone asks for a specific request. Is an example for like, I want to book a meeting, or I want to send an email. I want some FAQs. I want to learn a little bit more about what Ascendius does. It's going to call on these tools. That's why there's a lot of tools right here, and that's pretty much it. But other than that, that's kind of like the video, guys. Like, I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Comment down below for sure. And like I said, don't overthink. Stick to one offer. Stick to one thing. Voice agents are still very, very, at the time of this recording, which is around like September 6th, 2025, stick with one thing. Stick with voice agents. It's very, very underdeveloped, and you can definitely make a lot of money off it. So if you're lucky, if you're one of the few ones that are lucky to find this video pretty early on and actually get started on your voice agents by kind of copying me exactly what I did, then be my guest. You guys are more than happy to build it out. But until then, I'll see you guys on the next video. So, peace.